Driven to Win presents The Moon of Skulls by Robert E. Howard. Chapter 3, Lilith. Let's begin.
Lady of Mystery, what is thy history? By Virek.
A couch stood in the middle of the room, and on its silken surface lay a woman whose skin was fair and whose reddish gold hair fell about her bare shoulders. She now sprang erect, fright flooding her fine gray eyes, lips parted to utter a cry which she as suddenly checked. "You, how did you—" Solomon Kane closed the door behind him and came toward her, a rare smile on his dark face. "You remember me, do you not, Marilyn?" The fear had already faded from her eyes even before he spoke, to be replaced by a look of incredible wonder and dazed bewilderment. "Captain Kane, I cannot understand. It seemed no one would ever come." She drew a small hand wearily across her brow, swaying suddenly. Kane caught her in his arms, she was only a child, and laid her gently on the couch. There, chafing her wrists gently, he talked in a low, hurried monotone, keeping an eye on the door all the time, which door, by the way, seemed to be the only entrance or egress from the room, while he talked. He mechanically took in the chamber, noting that it was almost a duplicate of the outer room as regards hangings and general furnishings. "First," said he, "before we go into other matters, tell me, are you closely guarded?" "Very closely, sir," she murmured hopelessly. "I know not how you came here, but we can never escape." "Let me tell you swiftly how I came here, and mayhap you will be more hopeful when I tell you of the difficulties already overcome. Lie still now, Marilyn, and I will tell you how I came to seek an English heiress in the devil city of Nagari. I killed Sir John Taffarel in a duel. As to the reason, 'tis neither here nor there, but slander and a black lie lay behind it. Ere he died, he confessed that he had committed a foul crime some years agone. You remember, of course, the affection cherished for you by your cousin, old Lord Hildred Taffarel, Sir John's uncle. Sir John feared that the old lord, dying without issue, might leave the great Taffarel estates to you. Years ago you disappeared, and Sir John spread the rumor that you had drowned. Yet when he lay dying with my rapier through his body, he gasped out that he had kidnapped you and sold you to a Barbary rover, whom he named, a bloody pirate whose name has not been unknown on England's coasts aforetime. So I came seeking you, and a long, weary trail it has been, stretching into long leagues and bitter years. First, I sailed the seas, searching for El Gar, the Barbary corsair named by Sir John. I found him in the crash and the roar of an ocean battle. He died, but even as he lay dying, he told me that he had sold you in turn to a merchant out of Stamboul. So to the Levant I went, and there by chance came upon a Greek sailor whom the Moors had crucified on the shore for piracy. I cut him down and asked him the question I asked all men, if he had in his wanderings seen a captive English girl-child with yellow curls. I learned that he had been one of the crew of the Stamboul merchants, and that she had, on her homeward voyage, been set upon by a Portuguese slaver and sunk, this renegade Greek and the child being among the few who were taken aboard the slaver. This slaver then, cruising south for black ivory, had been ambushed in a small bay on the African west coast. And of your further fate the Greek knew nothing, for he had escaped the general massacre, and taking to sea in an open boat, had been taken up by a ship of Genoese freebooters. To the west coast then I came on the slim chance that you still lived, and there heard among the natives that some years ago a white child had been taken from a ship whose crew had been slain and sent inland as a part of the tribute the shore tribes paid to the upper river chiefs. Then all traces ceased. For months I wandered, without a clue as to your whereabouts, nay, without hint that you even lived. Then I chanced to hear among the river tribes of the demon city, Nigari, and the evil queen who kept a foreign woman for a slave. I came here. Kane's matter-of-fact tone, his unfurbished narration, gave no hint of the full meaning of that tale, of what lay behind those calm and measured words, the sea fights and the land fights, the years of privation and heartbreaking toil, the ceaseless danger, the everlasting wandering through hostile and unknown lands, the tedious and deadening labor of ferreting out the information he wished from ignorant, sullen, and unfriendly savages, black and white. "I came here," said Kane simply. But what a world of courage and effort was symbolized by that phrase. A long red trail, black shadows and crimson shadows weaving a devil's dance, marked by flashing swords and the smoke of battle, by faltering words falling like drops of blood from the lips of dying men. Not a consciously dramatic man certainly was Solomon Kane. He told his tale in the same manner in which he had overcome terrific obstacles, coldly, briefly, and without heroics. "You see, Marilyn, I have not come this far and done this much to now meet with defeat. Take heart, child. We will find a way out of this fearful place."
"Sir John took me on his saddle-bow," the girl said dazedly, and speaking slowly as if her native language came strangely to her from years of unuse, as she framed in halting words an English evening of long ago. "He carried me to the seashore, where a galley's boat waited, filled with fierce men, dark and mustached, and having scimitars and great rings to the fingers. The captain, a Muslim with a face like a hawk, took me, a-weeping with fear, and bore me to his galley. Yet he was kind to me in his way, I being little more than a baby, and at last sold me to a Turkish merchant, as he told you. This merchant he met off the southern coast of France after many days of sea travel. This man did not use me badly, yet I feared him, for he was a man of cruel countenance, and made me understand that I was to be sold to a black sultan of the Moors. However, in the gates of Hercules his ship was set upon by a Cabese slaver, and things came about as you have said. The captain of the slaver believed me to be the child of some wealthy English family, and intended holding me for ransom, but in a grim, darksome bay on the African coast he perished with all his men except the Greek you have mentioned, and I was taken captive by a savage chieftain. I was terribly afraid, and thought he would slay me, but he did me no harm, and sent me up country with an escort, who also bore much loot taken from the ship. This loot, together with myself, was, as you know, intended for a powerful king of the river peoples. But it never reached him, for a roving band of Nagari fell upon the beach warriors and slew them all. Then I was taken to this city, and have since remained slave to Queen Nakari. How I have lived through all these terrible scenes of battle and cruelty and murder, I know not." "A providence has watched over you, child," said Kane. "The power which doth care for weak women and helpless children, which led me to you in spite of all hindrances, and which shall yet lead us forth from this place, God willing." "My people," she exclaimed suddenly, like one awakening from a dream, "what of them?" "All in good health and fortune, child, save that they have sorrowed for you through the long years. Nay, old Sir Hildred hath the gout, and doth so swear thereat that I fear for his soul at times, yet methinks that the sight of you, little Marilyn, would mend him." "Still, Captain Kane," said the girl, "I cannot understand why you came alone."
Your brothers would have come with me, child, but it was not sure that you lived, and I was loath that any other Taffarel should die in a land far from good English soil. I rid the country of an evil Taffarel. 'Twas but just I should restore in his place a good Taffarel, if so be she still lived, I and I alone." This explanation Kane himself believed. He never sought to analyze his motives, and he never wavered once his mind was made up. Though he always acted on impulse, he firmly believed that all his actions were governed by cold and logical reasonings. He was a man born out of his time, a strange blending of Puritan and Cavalier with a touch of the ancient philosopher and more than a touch of the pagan, although the last assertion would have shocked him unspeakably. An atavist of the days of blind chivalry he was, a knight-errant in the somber clothes of a fanatic. A hunger in his soul drove him on, and urged to right all wrongs, protect all weaker things, avenge all crimes against right and justice. Wayward and restless as the wind, he was consistent in only one respect. He was true to his ideals of justice and right. Such was Solomon Kane.
"Maryellen," he now said kindly, taking her small hands in his sword-calloused fingers, "methinks you have changed greatly in the years. You were a rosy and chubby little maid when I used to dandle you on my knee in old England. Now you seem drawn and pale of face, though you are beautiful as the nymphs of the heathen books. There are haunting ghosts in your eyes, child. Do they misuse you here?" She lay back on the couch, and the blood drained slowly from her already pallid features until she was deathly white. Kane bent over her, startled. Her voice came in a whisper. "Ask me not. There are deeds better hidden in the darkness of night and forgetfulness. There are sights which blast the eyes and leave their burning mark forever on the brain. The walls of ancient cities, wrecked not of men, have looked upon scenes not to be spoken of even in whispers." Her eyes closed wearily, and Kane's troubled, somber eyes unconsciously traced the thin blue lines of her veins, prominent against the unnatural whiteness of her skin. "Here is some demoniacal thing, a mystery." "Aye," murmured the girl, "a mystery that was old when Egypt was young, a nameless evil more ancient than dark Babylon, that spawned in terrible black cities when the world was young and strange." Kane frowned, troubled. At the girl's strange words, he felt an eerie crawling fear at the back of his brain, as if dim racial memories stirred in the eon-deep Gauss, conjuring up grim, chaotic visions, elusive and nightmarish. Suddenly, Maryellen sat erect, her eyes flaring wide with fright. Kane heard a door open somewhere. "Nakari, swift! She must not find you here. Hide quickly, and—" As Kane turned, "Keep silent, whatever may chance." She lay back on the couch, feigning slumber, as Kane crossed the room and concealed himself behind some tapestries, which, hanging upon the wall, hid a niche that might have once held a statue of some sort. He had scarcely done so when the single door of the room opened, and a strange barbaric figure stood framed in it. Nakari, Queen of Nagari, had come to her slave. The black woman was clad as she had been when she had seen her on the throne, and the colored armlets and anklets clanked as she closed the door behind her and came into the room. She moved with the easy sinuousness of a she-leopard, and in spite of himself the watcher was struck with admiration for her lithe beauty. Yet at the same time a shudder of repulsion shook him, for her eyes gleamed with vibrant and magnetic evil older than the world. "Lilith," he thought. "She is beautiful and terrible as purgatory.
She is Lilith, that foul, lovely woman of ancient legend. Nagari, halted by the couch, stood looking down upon her captive for a moment, then, with an enigmatic smile, bent and shook her. Mariolyn opened her eyes, sat up, then slipped from her couch and knelt before her black mistress, an act which caused Kane to curse beneath his breath. Nagari laughed, and seating herself upon the couch, motioned the girl to rise, and then put an arm about her waist and drew her upon her lap. Kane watched puzzled, while Nagari caressed the girl in a lazy, amused manner. This might be affection, but to Kane it seemed more like a sated leopard teasing its victim. There was an air of mockery and studied cruelty about the whole affair. "You are very soft and pretty, Mara," Nagari murmured lazily, "much prettier than the black girls who serve me. The time approaches, little one, for your nuptial, and a fairer bride has never been born up the black stairs." Mariolyn began to tremble, and Kane thought she was going to faint. Nagari's eyes gleamed strangely beneath her long-lashed, drooping lids, and her full red lips curved in a faint, tantalizing smile. Her every action seemed fraught with some sinister meaning. Kane began to sweat profusely.
"Mara," said the Black Queen, "you are honored above all other girls, and yet you are not content. Think how the girls of Nagari will envy you, Mara, when the priests sing the nuptial song and the moon of skulls looks over the black crest of the Tower of Death. Think, little bride of the Master, how many girls have given their lives to be his bride." And Nagari laughed in her hateful, musical way as at a rare jest. And then, suddenly, she stopped short. Her eyes narrowed to slits as they swept the room, and her whole body tensed. Her hand went to her girdle and came away with a long, thin dagger. Kane sighted along the barrel of his pistol, finger against the trigger. Only a natural hesitancy against shooting a woman kept him from sending death into the black heart of Nagari, for he believed that she was about to murder the girl. Then, with a lithe, cat-like motion, she thrust the girl from her knees and bounded back across the room, her eyes fixed with blazing intensity on the tapestry behind which Kane stood. Had those keen eyes discovered him? He quickly learned. "Who is there?" she rapped out fiercely. "Who hides behind those hangings? I do not see you nor hear you, but I know someone is there." Kane remained silent. Nagari's wild beast instinct had betrayed him, and he was uncertain as to what course to follow. His next actions depended on the Queen. "Mara," Nagari's voice slashed like a whip, "who is behind those hangings? Answer me. Shall I give you a taste of the whip again?" The girl seemed incapable of speech. She cowered where she had fallen, her beautiful eyes full of terror. Nagari, her blazing gaze never wavering, reached behind her with her free hand and gripped a cord hanging from the wall. She jerked viciously. Kane felt the tapestries whip back on either side of him, and he stood revealed. For a moment the strange tableau held. The gaunt adventurer in his blood-stained, tattered garments, the long pistol gripped in his right hand. Across the room, the Black Queen in her barbaric finery, one arm still lifted to the cord, the other hand holding the dagger in front of her. The imprisoned girl cowering on the floor. Then Kane spoke. "Keep silent, Makari, or you die." The Queen seemed numbed and struck speechless by the sudden apparition. Kane stepped from among the tapestries and slowly approached her. "You," she found her voice at last, "you must be he of whom the guardsman spake. There are not 2 other white men in Nagari. They said you fell to your death. How then—" "Silence!" Kane's voice cut in farcely on her amazed babblings. He knew that the pistol meant nothing to her, but she sensed the threat of the long blade in his left hand. "Mariolyn," still unconsciously speaking in the river tribe's language, "take cords from the hangings and bind her." He was about the middle of the chamber now. Nakari's face had lost much of her helpless bewilderment, and into her blazing eyes stole a crafty gleam. She deliberately let her dagger fall as in token of surrender. Then, suddenly, her hand shot high above her head and gripped another thick cord. Kane heard Marilyn scream, but before he could pull the trigger or even think, the floor fell beneath his feet and he shot down into abysmal blackness. He did not fall far, and he landed on his feet, but the force of the fall sent him to his knees, and even as he went down, sensing a presence in the darkness beside him, something crashed against his skull, and he dropped into a yet blacker abyss of unconsciousness.
Thank you for watching today's episode. The next chapter will be uploaded tomorrow. Please like and subscribe to Driven to Win for more updates.